Welcome to Orange Cups Podcast, where each episode is full of inspiration. Today we have Lori from Las Reinas in the building. Hello, Lori.
Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing well. Well, I want to thank you for getting on Orange Cups Podcast.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
Yes. So Las Reinas curates unique events and experiences for the LGBTQ community. I personally known Lori for about 3 years. I've DJed and done some video work for her. Today, I have the pleasure of getting to know all the details of what makes Las Reinas.
Yeah.
I'm going to just start off very simple. So my first question for you would be, where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Where did I grow up? So I wasn't born here.
Okay.
I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. And then I came here when I was 2 years old. And funny enough, in this neighborhood where we are at, I grew up in Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
When prostitution was like a big thing and there was like peep shows all over the place. It looked nothing like this. So it's like totally amazing, like the change. So this is where I grew up at.
Wow. Okay, so we're back in your stomping grounds.
Yes. Midtown Manhattan.
Okay. It must be a big difference to see how the area has changed, because I know back in the days it was like the peep shows and very rural. It was like a lot of broken buildings versus what Times Square is today.
No, yes, totally. I ran these streets. So I was a little street kid.
What were some of your favorite activities or hobbies as a child?
So to be honest, my childhood was a little rocky.
Okay.
I wasn't raised with my parents. My father, I don't know who he is. He's just a sperm donor. God bless him. He's probably passed away. My mother, as I said, we're immigrants, so she came here, and during that era, the times were a little bit different for immigrants. It wasn't easy to obtain a job or get visas. So she started working in the line of field that was very popular, and I'm not ashamed of it. So my mother did start as a street girl.
Okay.
So I couldn't live with her, of course, because, of her lifestyle. So I had live-in nannies. So I lived right here on 43rd Street, and I lived with a Dominican Puerto Rican family. That's why a lot of people wonder, why is it that I do not have a Venezuelan accent? And that's because, I was raised with the little plátanos and empanadas. That's why I love them so much. So I was with them for quite some time. So as far as hobbies, I guess, I just was a typical kid playing with other kids. I was always a daydreamer. I was always a storyteller, sort of, very creative. So my nanny's house, like one thing I could remember is that she had so many pillows. It was so weird. Like pillows and pillows and pillows and pillows, like sleeping pillows. And somehow I created like an ice cream parlor out of these pillows. So like every color, every pillow had a different pillowcase. So that was the flavor. So if it was pink, it was strawberry. If it was green, it was mint. So I always found myself to be very creative and always living a little fairy tale. Maybe because of how I grew up,
Right.
So I was creating little fairy tales all the time.
A very big imagination.
Yes, that's for sure. I did have a big imagination.
That's good. I love that. What role did your mother play in your life? Was she strict, lenient, or somewhere in between?
So my relationship with my mom was not the best due to her, her profession. It really caused me to be in awkward situations that I shouldn't have as a child, but I surpassed them. As far as my mom really didn't have no rules on me. She just couldn't. She just wasn't. I didn't see her as a mother figure, to be honest. So I ran the streets. I did whatever I wanted, and it's not the best, So our relationship wasn't that good, But I tried as I got older. But as a child, she really didn't have no say on what I did. But although I did pick up a lot of my mom's good habits, not her bad ones. And like I said, we were immigrants coming here. She was a street girl, but she was also very she was a boss. Like, she was very boss, and she had that demeanor. So she went from, being a street girl, prostitute, whatever it is, to an actual madam and ran her own business.
Wow.
So, though it's not the line of field that you
No.
would want for your parent or to see, or even your child, it is something that is out there. Street workers and call girls, and it could be respectful, or it's just a business. It is.
Right.
She did go from here to here, and I think I picked that up. I picked up that behavior from her, like that boss chick, like
That mentality.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that I did pick up from her.
That's amazing. I mean, I know it wasn't the best situation that you could possibly follow, but she also had influence on you to become your own boss.
No, yes, and also showed me where I didn't want to go.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people could have, taken their childhood and seen there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of people. You see a lot of, males and whatever, and things that children wouldn't want to see, and they could have taken that. And if you had a weak mind and just went down that path and went into drugs and maybe the same profession or whatever, but I always vowed that although my mother went through that line, that I would not. That I would not be involved in that lifestyle. Like, I saw what it was. I saw what it did to people. I met many people that my mom worked with, and it was kind of sad, you know what I'm saying? Even though, like, it's a lot of stuff that they go through and things that I would never want to. So I took those experiences, and I made sure that I went into a field and I created a woman that was nowhere near there.
How old were you when you when you knew that you didn't want to take that route?
I honestly can't say
Same.
what age, but I just knew. I mean, again, I was full of imagination. So I recall in 5th grade, I wanted to be a model. I was going to be a model. I thought I was the shit. But this is back in the 80s, 90s, like por ahí. And you had to be 100-pound wet to be a model. So there wasn't many Latinas out there, and they were 100-pound wet. Calvin Klein models were like stick figures,
Yeah.
like bones,
Yeah.
And I did do some part-time modeling, and I was in Barbizon. And unfortunately, one day they told my mother, hey, your daughter has to lose some weight, And my mom was like, where? I wasn't like a thick girl, but I wasn't thin either. I had little curves here and there. And so my mom said, I'm sorry. And she broke my dreams, shattered them, because she told me that there was no way I could lose weight at that point as a child. That she wasn't going to stop feeding me maduros and stuff like that. But other than that, I think it was the best decision she could have made for me as a child, because she also didn't like the pounds of makeup that modeling would put on me.
Okay.
So,
What was your social circle like? Were you the outgoing type or more of an introvert?
I was an introvert. I wasn't an only child because I have an older sister, but we're 17 years apart.
Wow.
But we wasn't raised together, so I was pretty alone, and living with nannies, and you're really not a priority. You're not gonna get the same love that you would as like if they were really your parents or whatever. So I felt always alone, and I didn't really, and I think because of the fact that my childhood, I was a little troublemaker, always causing some type of chaos, and I went to Catholic school, but I was always like fighting with something or with somebody, and so I may have like 2 or 3 friends, but I was never in the popular group. High school, never popular. Junior high, never popular. I don't know when I became popular, to be honest. I'm still kind of shy. I'm still a little quiet. I still have a small circle. So, yeah, I'm not that big. I seem popular, but I'm really not.
What's one experience from your childhood or teenage years that taught you an important life lesson?
Oh, wow. There's so many, but so again, like I said, I ran the streets. So I was clubbing at the age of 13, 14.
Okay.
And I was always in the club scene and stuff, and I found myself going down a really bad path at that point. And there was this club, Essos. Little Kim sings about it in her music.
Okay.
And it was over here, actually down on 39th Street, down by the water. And I was maybe like 15 around there, por ahí. And I was dancing on the stage. Like, I shouldn't even have been in that club.
Wow.
You know, like I remember I performed with Sancocho, you know, that song Tumba la Casa
Yeah.
Tumba. I performed, like I danced for his little thing. It was so weird, but I don't even understand. So, but one day, you know, I was drinking, I was doing the most, like I shouldn't have been. And there was a big shootout. And it was it was the first time I've ever been in anything like that. And everyone's like running around. And these are adults, you know, 20, you know, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. And I'm only 15. And I'm like, oh my God. And luckily for me, like one of the bouncers, even though he didn't even know my age, he basically, I was tiny, you know, put me under his little whatever and ran me out. And after that, I was just like, it was such a scary experience that I just vowed that I wouldn't be in the club scene no more and look at me. Ain't that crazy? Well, you know, it's a little bit different, you know, but I mean, even somewhat. But yeah, so that was like an experience as a child that I was like, never again. Like, it was just so chaotic, people trampling over each other. And I just remember being in a little corner and didn't know what to do with myself
No.
because I'm a kid. I'm like, you know, you don't know. You don't I didn't even know there were gunshots. I
Wow.
just knew everybody was running, everything was happening. So luckily the bouncer saved me.
That's a lot for a 15-year-old, right? You were 15?
Yeah, about
Yeah, that's
15,
amazing.
yeah.
It's a lot, especially gunshots. Like, you're like, okay, how do I handle this?
Yeah, nobody teach you these things.
No, not at all. How did you deal with failure or disappointment growing up? Were there specific moments that were tough but shaped your resilience?
Well, I was always disappointed by my mother, unfortunately, right?
Right.
For example, I think I've I have women issues since I was a kid because of my mom, right?
Okay.
So she was a big time liar and manipulator and things. So since I was always with my nanny, she would tell me, "Oh, I'm coming to pick you up and see you and blah blah blah," and I would sit at the window waiting for my mom like a little sad ass puppy, excuse me, you know, waiting, and she would never show up, and then would come with the gift. You know, so it reminds you of what, these relationships you have now, where you have an abuser and they abuse you, and then they gift you, and then everything is great.
Yeah.
So I so learning from that, from my mom, all that disappointment and stuff like that, I learned to take that and just make it into a better situation, and where I don't fall into the same, you know, the same routine with
Yeah.
women nowadays in my life. So
How important were friendships in your early life, and have they remained important to you over time?
friendships.
Friendships.
They were very important. I remember I had a friend that I knew since I was 2 years old in the same building we grew up at. But unfortunately, we were like 2 years old and we did a lot of things together. I would always have her travel with us, and we were so close. But unfortunately, I can't say we're close anymore. And if you're out there, I wish you well. Unfortunately, what happened was is that at 12 years old is when I have my first experience with a woman, and it was her. Well, I mean, we're not women, we were kids, and she was the she was the super's daughter. So that one, we got caught by the super. So I was the lesbian of the building.
Oh,
Everything went
no.
to shit.
Not the lesbian
Yeah.
of the building.
Yes.
I
and
know
I'm
that.
like,
I know that term very well.
Oh my God, it's horrible. And everything went to shits after that. And then, you know, she made me feel really shitty and said we weren't friends and that, you know, she wasn't a gay or anything like that. And she couldn't be my friend anymore. And I was like, okay. And years later, even so when I saw her again, like, you know, it was like that too. And I was like, all right, no worries. Like,
All
you
right.
know. So friendships, you know, have always been something that I really value. Like I said, right now I only have, I have like really, I could count on both my hands, like my really good friends, but then with one hand I could count like my best of friends, the ones that I will always like run to or be there for, or they'll be there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate them. And we're going on like 20 years of friendship, 10 years, and you know, it's like really long friendships. Not
You
like,
can call. You can count decades.
yeah.
That's really important. What kind of person did you imagine you would become when you were younger, and how does that compare to where you are now?
Yeah, I totally didn't think that I would be promoter slash everything that I am now. When I was little, I thought of remember I said I was always living in fairy tales.
Yeah.
So I was a big Disney person, big princess, because that's what, big hype back then, So I always thought, I was going to be happily ever, married, white picket fence. Although my marriage at some point did change into a female, not the male, like original fairy tales. But I thought like I would be living like I didn't even think I thought of work back
Wow.
then. You know what I'm saying? Like I just thought I was gonna be a princess, and never thought I was gonna grow into this like this badass hustler because that's really what I am. Like
Yeah,
I'm always
that's right.
hustling.
At one point, did you begin to understand your LGBTQ identity, and how was that understanding evolved over time?
So like I said, I tried my first at 12, and then I was like, eh. And then it wasn't until I was about maybe 17 years old and where I started crushing on my supervisor at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And she was way older than me. And, things led to other things. And I was like, okay. I was still a little baby dyke. That's what they used to call it back then. And I got with her, and uh, it was a little rocky, kind of trying to figure out myself with her because then she was also finding herself. And at this point, what is nowadays so readily available, transgendered,
Yeah.
it wasn't back then, not to say my age, but I'm in my 40s now, early 40s, well, mid 40s. And so this is a while back, because this is when I'm 18. So she was trying to find herself. And so it was very confusing at that point. So in the beginning, I was so confused. So I really didn't think that I found myself until maybe my 20s, until I really realized that, okay, this is it. I had already came out to my mom. And she was very accepting, but not accepting at the same time. So, but it was right when I hit 20 and stuff that I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to be. But I want to be with a woman, like a female,
Yeah.
not not one that looked like a boy or anything like
Yeah.
that. That's why the beginning 18, 19, and all that was very confusing to me because of my ex.
You were understanding what you were attracted to at that point.
Yes, and I mean, she sort of shaped me because her going through her changes, and I started seeing like she had like long hair, and then it went to a boy cut.
Yeah.
And not that it's a matter at this point, but back
Yeah.
then, and then it was just her bodily stuff and like what she was doing, and I was like, it felt very manly, and I was like, no, that manly part is just too manly for me.
I know you touched on having your first crush at 17. Did you have any other romantic relationships, and how did they shape your understanding of love and connection?
So before I came out, I remember I had my first experience at 12. Then after that, when I became the building's lesbian, and I was like, oh my God. And also, I was very spoiled by my mom because of the fact that that's how she showed love. So I'm here, a child, thinking, whoa, I don't want to lose my spoiled status, like I get everything I wanted. So I was like, I better make my mom happy. So I started dating boys, and I was in a relationship with a boy maybe from I want to say 13 till about 16,
Mm-hmm.
16 years old, around there. And, he was more like of an experience. I think me and him both were experiences to each other. But I knew that I was gay because I would look at a girl before he looked at a girl. Like, I already peeped her, like, and I would fake the funk and be like, oh, her outfit's so cute. Yeah, her ass is fat and her tits are popping.
Yes.
But, so I was very still closeted with him. But at about 16, I did start coming out and telling him. And he ended up cheating on me either way, for whatever reason. So he helped me because it kind of helped me like, okay, now I could. F you got to go because I don't play with cheating. Like, and now I'm going to be who I want to be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I did play the straight card for a little bit just to make my mom happy. I've always done it for my family, basically.
I think a lot of people can relate to that and say they've done it just to make their parents or whoever, their guardians, happy, to say, hey, I tried. It's not working.
Yeah, I mean, like, or, sometimes families are so much more important that a person stays in the closet
Yeah.
for them. And it's kind of sad, but it's understandable, to each his own.
How do you recognize when a relationship or friendship isn't for you?
So you know what? This month is Mental Awareness Month,
Yes.
right? So I've put it out there about like depression and anxiety. Those things are real. Like for growing up, they weren't, right? Because I come from a Latin family like yourself, so I'm assuming like when you was laying down in your bed crying, you probably had a tough ass mom saying like, "Get up, man."
Yeah.
You know, you wasn't allowed to feel your feelings out. So I was raised in that way, Dominican, Puerto Ricans. They were like, nah, you know, you ain't sad, you ain't this, you're fine. No, I'm not fine. Let me feel this out. So as I became an adult, you know, I started feeling things out more. And so depression runs in my family, and I was always aware of that. But I never really embraced it because I never had a chance to. So as I got older, my sister did make it clear to me and let me know that, hey, this is clinically, this could be part of you. You know what I mean? Don't eliminate this. This could be real. Like, you know, embrace what you're feeling and whatever. So it took me until 2019 to really realize that I actually do suffer from depression. Depression has been part of my life, my whole life, but I never embraced it until I was in a toxic relationship and she put me over the fucking edge. Like, I mean, and I'm not like ashamed to talk about it because I would want people out there like
Yeah.
to really pay mind to like the things that are happening to them. So I would, you know, start crying out of nowhere. Like tears would just roll down my face while I was at the office,
Wow.
and my boss would be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "You don't look okay. You're crying." I'm like, "Oh, no, no, that's my, you know, whatever." And then I wouldn't even notice all the changes was happening because I didn't really understand it. And so, you know, I went to seek therapy, and the therapist was like, yeah, this is not like just a therapy session. Like, you actually are going to have to see a psychiatrist for this because you are, this is depression.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Not
Whoa,
me.
like what? Okay. So I embraced it, and so now at this point, going through that, I guess I can say how I know with friendships and relationships is when I start feeling those feelings again of like the ill feelings that you feel in your gut, the fact that you can't even talk straight without like, you know, your anxiety going over the roof, or your tears start rolling down, and you just have to say to yourself like, what's more important, like saving your relationship, friendship with somebody, or yourself?
Yeah.
You know, so I've come to a point in my life where I've always unfortunately been a people pleaser. I've always had like this big heart, although a lot of people say that I'm cold. But I'm cold because of how I grew up, you know,
Yeah.
like I didn't know love like the way somebody else would know love. Um, so now I just like try to tell myself, okay, there's no more people pleasing. You need to do for you, because if you don't do for you, you're gonna like go over the edge, you know, and it's not a cute look. I mean, depression is real, you know, and you
Yeah.
just gotta. It's just something you have to embrace and just know that you have to do for yourself first, because
You know
you
your
know,
triggers now,
yes,
and you know
yeah.
when to stop.
I don't think I got to that point.
Well, you're learning.
I'm learning. I'm
Okay, that's good.
still learning, but it's just so hard because I don't like to hurt people. I don't want to be the bad guy. You know, all the thing that everybody has, right? You know what I mean? But then in the long run, you're hurting yourself.
Yeah.
You end up hurting yourself. But sometimes I feel like I do selfless acts. You know, I was in the military, so being in the military, you learn how to be selfless. So I feel like sometimes I take a lot of the hits, and I always look like the bad guy because I want the other person to be okay. But that's not really okay because they're
No.
probably not okay.
Did you find yourself wanting to like save people?
Yes, all the time. That is my thing. Yes, I find myself to always want to take care of somebody, always want to take care of, even if it's my
Yeah.
friends, you know, I'm always there for others. I mean, in my line of work, like I meet a lot of people, and I always have my DMs and my emails, anything open for anyone who needs to talk, vent, share. And I just, you know, and I take all this in, you know, and I somehow have to find an outlet for
Yeah.
it. So it gets very difficult, you know, because you know how empath, we can feel things.
Yeah.
So it could be a little hard because I'm, you know, but I try to channel it through, I guess, partying.
It's like an energy transfer. So like you're taking in a lot of their energy. What do you do to make sure that your energy is okay at the end of it? Because you're taking in all this, negative. It's not negative, but it's negative for you because somebody's going through something. So you're taking that dark energy or that sad energy, and then you got to hold on to it. So I'm hoping that you're finding a way to release it and make it a positive energy again.
I do for the most part,
Yeah.
but I do find some difficulties at time, and it's a balance.
Yeah.
So some days when you see me, like sometimes a person can tell when I'm making videos that I'm looking kind of blah, bland, like I'm there but not there. And there's some people out there that reach out to me and be like, okay, Lori, I'm feeling it. Like I see it. Like you might need like a hike, or you might need a traveling because I love to travel. You might need some, release here. So, and I'm not talking anything dirty.
A reset.
Reset.
Yes. When did you create Las Reinas, and what made you want to cater to the queer community?
So I created Las Reinas originally in 2007, but we don't really celebrate 2007. That's why I just celebrated 16 years.
Right.
Because it really kicked off 2008. But I started in 2007, and it was primarily because I was in a relationship from 2006 between por ahí with this girl. And unfortunately, she was not a good person. I thought she was. I made her out to be this good person. But she had a lot of issues that she had not dealt with. And she had a lot of anger issues. She needed something to make herself feel better. So she would rotate women, like, constantly. And when you're young, I'm only like, 25.
Right.
I thought I was the change. I was the shit, saying I'm all cute. And she was going to change her ways for me. And she loved me. Bullshit. This girl didn't probably even know what love is until maybe now she does, and I'm assuming so. And I'm hoping she grew up, at this point. But then, she ended up cheating on me, living a double life.
Mm-hmm.
For all of you, so I'm going to be really raw right now, and what I'm going to say, don't judge me. She got me into coke at that point in my life. I didn't even know what the fuck drugs was, mind you. I do know what it was from my childhood, but I never picked it up, never really paid mind to it. It wasn't something important. But she was into it, and I had no idea. And then one night, she just was like, oh, look what I got. And I was so inside dead, not happy, but trying to be happy with this person. So I ended up starting to do coke, and it was a thing between me and her. So I felt like a bond.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a fucking bond. She just wanted me to be all fucking coked up so I wouldn't be paying half the attention to what she was really doing in her life with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so after I found out she was cheating on me, whatever, we broke up. I let her go. And I was still involved. Now, I wasn't like a big cokehead though, Like, I could literally buy an 8-ball and have it for a whole month. That's $100 of coke, like, and have it for a whole month.
Right.
People go through that shit in a day, you know what I'm saying? But I was still, using, and I was becoming very, very skinny. I was probably like a Barbie with all boobs and no butt, like, and no legs. Like, my leg was the size of my arm. That's how serious. Like, that wasn't even cute. Like, I probably lasted like a year looking like that. But since I was losing so much weight, I felt like I was so sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, now I'm like dressing provocative. I'm being all this, I don't know what, ultra femme. And I'm going out partying my life away and drinking and all these people. I'm meeting all these people. I'm meeting all these people. I'm meeting all these people. And, at that point, I started building fans, because I'm all this little, I'm looking like a sex goddess, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right? And since I'm building up these fans, I start doing parties. I start doing house parties. And these are sick house parties. And mind you, I lived in a studio. Like, I literally only had one room. And it would be packed.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So one person out of nowhere said to me, Lori, you're really good at this. Like, you draw people. You don't see that you draw people? And I was like, whatever. So this is 2007. In about 2008, earlier on, there's a queer boat, a lesbian boat ride. Now, it's being run by a police officer who's straight, a straight man. And because his little lesbian friends are asking him, because he throws straight parties, hey, do a lesbian boat party. So he's like, all right. So he tells them to sell tickets. So somebody hits me up and says, hey, there's this lesbian boat party. And I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So BlackBerry back then, you remember BlackBerry? You
Yep.
could actually send mass text. You didn't have to pay for that. It was just, So I send this big old massive text to my BlackBerry to everyone on there talking about a boat party. The girl had 50 tickets. I sold her 50
Wow.
tickets. So I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. Actually, it's 2007. Because in 2008, early on, he hits me up and tells me, hey, I'm throwing this boat party again. Would you like to sell tickets for me? And I started laughing. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm the lesbian here. You're the straight man. I said, let's do this. I go half and half with you on expenses, and we're going to do this boat party together.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking to myself, what really are you pulling in? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're not going to pull 400 people to this boat by yourself,
Yeah.
And you're not going to, I'm getting $5 a ticket. $5. I don't even know if it was $5 back then, but I'm like, $50, $5, that's $250. That I don't think so.
Yeah.
I got this. So he said, you know what? Fine. Okay, no problem. Okay, we sold the whole boat, all 400 thing, and that was my first $5,000 I ever
Wow.
made. So I was a kid, 25, like whoa, with this
Five
cash. I was
racks.
like, wow, 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 wow. I'm like, woohoo! I was like, damn. So at that point, I was like, I had no idea this could be like this. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking for venues, and it was rocky at first. And then I had my old business partner, which is one of my best friends, and I added her on as a partner because she had the looks and she was always in Henrietta's. And I'm again shy and I don't really like to be in the covers of
Yeah.
stuff. And so I was like, she's beautiful. She's very popular in Henrietta's. So I was like, as a businesswoman, I was like, this is it. I'm gonna get her because people, are attracted to her. She has a line of fans,
Yeah.
and it will help with the business. So she became my business partner then in 2008. And our first kickoff was in September 2008 in the village in this club called a very small, tiny little spot. Like, I feel like 100 people, not even, could fit in that place, but we fit in as many people. I don't even know how. But it was run by these little, I don't know, Eastern American. There was like this really cute group, and we just ran with it on a Sunday. Worst night, because nobody wants to party on a Sunday, although I have a party tonight. But it was a weekly, every week on a Sunday. But we would pack it, and it was just like, we were children, and we were just having a good time. So that's how Las Reinas. And then after that, I just flew with it. There was no
Shut
going
up.
back.
You think you guys were like one of the, not the very first, but one of the first spaces that helped the queer community come in? Because there wasn't a lot of spaces. Like you went to West Fourth and there was a few, very few.
Yeah. Well, in the village area, I mean, I think so. Las Reinas came about really, really
Yeah.
because of the Latinas. So there was Henrietta's.
Yeah.
There were a lot of little different places, but for the Latin women, there really was nothing. When you went to Henrietta's, they played all types of music, but they didn't play no salsa. They didn't play no bachata. There was no merengue.
Yeah.
And any Spanish music they did play was on KTU one, whatever that channel is.
Yeah.
So it wasn't authentic. So how would you? They weren't reaching our ethnicity. So the Latina community was really segregated. Like we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So we had this place called Boom Boom, I think, in Chuecas in Queens. But a lot of older women went there. My sister used to hang out in there, So I was like, where do our youngins, like, where do we go? Like, we're like, my business partner was 21. I was 25, 26. Damn, I can't even remember. But we were in our 20s and nothing popping for us, So that was the primarily reason why Las Reinas was so important to me,
Yeah.
So as far as like there was spaces, there was actually a lot more places to party compared to now than back then, but there wasn't nothing primarily for the young Latinas. I mean, there was this place called Nikki's Remix, which was revamped because from, you know, word of mouth. Not, I'm not saying it verbatimly. From what I heard, Nicki's remix was shut down because of the fact that it really didn't want the minority group that was heading over there. But it was a young, it pulled in young people, so that party shut down because of that, and then it got revamped into something else. But so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna continue pushing forward for our minorities, our Latinas, our Morenas, whatever it is. Even though the Morenas have their own stuff, but there's still a lot of Morenas that have Latina backgrounds, Dominicans, whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna keep going, and even if sometimes there was failures, I just kept going and going and going. Now I'm here.
16 years later. What are some misconceptions you wish people would stop making about the queer identities or experiences for the parties?
Um, I guess like the fact that I feel like the queer community have like this stigma about them that they're hoes, or that they're like sexual, or like it's all about sex, and it isn't.
No.
Like, me being that it's been 16 years that I learned, like, it's family. Like, every woman that walks through that door is a new story. It's a different story. It has nothing to do with like they're not there to have sex or meet somebody. They're there because maybe they had a rough day, or the relationship is no longer where it's at, or they're celebrating an achievement, like and for some reason I feel like the community, the women, and maybe it's because of the gay men, I don't know, because they party differently. But with the women, I feel like a lot of people think that it's like all about sex, sexiness, or whatever, and it really isn't. But and another thing is that they have no money. So finding venues for lesbian parties is like one of the hardest things, because they feel, because of the way that women aren't as advanced as men, even though that's changing, that's been changing, that the women are not going to be paying as much. You see, that's why if you ever see even straight parties, women are free.
Yeah.
Right? Because the men are going to come with their fake make-believe baller status and their credit cards that they still got to pay. And they're going to be buying drinks for the girls, but the girls can't do that. But that's not true. Girls are not popping bottles and doing the most, So those kind of things, But, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be someone saying something about somebody.
Always. Can you describe a moment during the past 16 years where you felt seen or validated in your queer identity, and how was your identity shaped by your self-awareness or personal growth?
So I guess the one time it's not one time, because I feel it all the time. I mean, every time, honestly, when somebody hits me up on my DM or sends me a text and thanks me for an event, or tells me how great it was, or how it was their first time and it was such an amazing, feeling, and having that safe space. Every time I receive one of those messages, it's like, yay, it always feels amazing, always validates the fact that what I'm doing, there's a purpose.
Yeah.
Keeps me going, actually, for real, because sometimes it gets a little rough and I'm like, oh my God, sometimes I want to say, I'm putting my cape away. I mean, putting it down, but I can't. It's impossible. But I was not awarded, but I was seen as one of the 100 women in the queer community that is shaping the community in some way, shape, form. I was in the Go magazine, and I think that's 2 years ago. Let me see, where are we, 24, 20? Yeah. I think in 2022 it was possibly that I was recognized as 100 women that they love. And that was a good feeling, because, again, that's now 14 years into my career. And finally being recognized that Las Reinas is more than just a party. We're not, I'm not going to sit here and say we're like this huge movement and stuff like that. But I'm going to say that Las Reinas is more than just a party. You could see it as I'm promoting a party, but I'm actually promoting a place for you to come and and enjoy yourself. Be free of anyone looking over your shoulder. What are you doing? Who are you?
Yeah.
What do you stand for? Las Reinas events is where you feel welcomed. You can wear whatever you want to wear, be whoever you want to be. There's no popularity. There's nobody looking like with their stuck up noses, like, oh my God, we can't talk to that girl, whatever. Everyone is talking, everyone is mingling. You can go there by yourself and feel so welcomed. So I felt really good being like acknowledged, just not as an event. Like, I'm just not a promoter. Actually, I don't even like to be called a promoter, but I still say your favorite promoter, right? Because that's what I'm doing. But I'd rather be like seen as like a producer. Like, I'm producing these events for you.
Yeah.
Well, not for you. Well, for everyone.
Yeah.
So,
And a safe space.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing to me. You know what I mean? Like, I remember going out. I don't know. I think you're around my age, or maybe now you're younger than me, of course. you know, but going out when I was young, in my 20s, whatever, 18, I was going out young. I never even knew who threw the parties. Like, I would go to these clubs and have no idea who was throwing these parties, what was the parties even about. I was just showing up to some event because my friends were saying, like, oh, this is an event. So I vowed that although it is kind of tiring to always be out there, be so public, and having my life out there, like, as an open book could be very draining. But I vowed that I would want people to know where they're going, who they're going, what they're doing, what the events are for, why are we throwing these events, because I didn't want to feel like, I don't want them to feel like an outcast, like I felt when I was young. I would go to a party and I wouldn't even know nobody. I didn't feel like I was capable of even talking to somebody because there was always like a clique. Everyone was a little clique.
Yeah.
Everyone, like, God forbid you looked at a girl, now you're trying to get to the girlfriend, whatever. So, I mean, I'm saying that there's no drama like that ever, but, I think back then it was a little more cliquish than it is now. And I never wanted that to be how my events were.
You want it to be just open for everybody, which I think it is, honestly. You go in, you go by yourself, and somebody's talking to you right away. You're at the bar getting a drink, you're getting food, somebody's going to speak to you. So I think that's really amazing. You should be really proud of that, honestly. It's a big accomplishment.
Thank you.
And I'm sure a lot of people can agree with it, right? Can you tell us about your experience in nightlife promotion? What venues or events have you worked with?
Oh, my experiences. Okay,
I'm sure there's
so
ton.
many.
I'm sure there's ton.
Well, let's give a big shout out to the venues that I could remember. There's, like today, at the Dickens, which is a queer-owned establishment. Then my monthly is at Fresco Grand Cantina, which is also another queer-owned by amazing two gay boys that I throw a monthly party there. Then, I'll talk about the good ones. And then we have Slate NYC, where we curate queer games, which is such an amazing party, so fun. I used to work with Taj, which is also in the same area, for Pride. They normally do some queer events, but they're, a lot of these places are, majority of them are straight.
Yeah.
But they do open their doors to the queer community for certain promoters. Let me see. Then there's, there's been so many that I've worked on with all my life. Like, those are the 4 that I've been working on recently. And then there's, for Halloween, we're working for this venue called Clinton Hall. We did one event there also, but then there's La Vibras, where we do Latin night. And then, I mean, there was a few others. Unfortunately, like, there was a little bumps and stuff like that. So I'm not going to name them. I don't feel like they should be even nominated as part of my shout-outs for the queer community. Like, peace. But as far as experiences, there's just so many experiences that I've had throughout. Like, good ones, bad ones. As being Las Reinas, I get my cycles. I get my stalkers. But I make such amazing, valuable, like, relationships with a lot of people. I've made friends through this, a lot of business partners, so a lot of collaborations. I mean, look at us. You know what I mean? Like, 3 years ago, you was DJing for me. Now you're running your own podcast, and I'm here.
That's crazy.
So there's a lot of doors open. For me through Las Reinas.
Yeah.
But the one thing I also love is that I'm able to open a lot of doors for others. Like, for example, I do a lot of showcasing where artists that are up and coming. You know, I have them perform at the event. I'm promoting them through my channel. I have no problems with sharing like what I've built so far. It's not big, to be honest, for the fact that I've been 16 years, but I started with MySpace. I started with flyers, hand flyers, like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I started where like social media wasn't like a big thing. Now you gotta like get on with these reels, TikTok, and oh my God, it's overwhelming, you know?
Yeah.
But I can't put my whole life on like on social media. It's impossible. So I don't have that many. I mean, I've reached what 12.4K, which is
That's
hey, I'm
big,
almost
man.
there.
I could barely
You know
keep a
what I'm
thousand,
saying?
so
It's not easy. It is not easy. But I appreciate those that are following me now. And if you want to follow me,
yes.
you know, hit me up, Las Reinas, NYC. But it is very difficult compared to how others that are young and into the social media and into making reels and into making all these TikToks and putting their whole life on the gram. I try. I really do. But it's, whoo, is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So um, I feel like Las Reinas could be bigger. If I could be that, maybe I have to hire a marketing person. I don't
At
know.
this point, I
But
mean, hey,
that's a possibility, you know, anyone out there that.
marketing
uh,
team, and then me after, please.
but I am still happy with what I have currently.
It's established and it's grown.
Yeah, it definitely has grown. And again, remember, we started with like flyering out in MySpace, like, you know, so I tried to get onto my MySpace the other day just to see it because, you
It's
know,
still active.
it's there, but I can't really log in. I don't know. It's just you go into like MySpace and I see it, but I can't log in. Man, I
You
wouldn't even
log
remember
in,
my
look for me.
login. Huh?
If you log in, look for me. Take a screenshot. I don't even remember my name, but look for me.
You were probably one of my followers. Who knows?
Probably. I'm gonna ask you the opposite question. How has it been, or has it been difficult to work with venues because of the community you cater to?
And yes. No names to the venue
Yeah.
because I already shouted them out.
Yeah.
But the safety is so important for the queer community because, unfortunately, as even though we've have developed and we have grown, there's still haters and there's still people that are so against us, and not hiring the correct safety bouncers, you know, licensed. That's very important.
Yeah.
And some of these restaurants, especially, you know what I mean? Because restaurants are restaurants. They're not a lounge. They're not a club. They think they could get away with a lot of things. No. At the end of the day, you are having people in your establishment that are lashed out at it, you know. And if you want to call yourself a queer ally, then make sure that you do the homework on what's important to have these, you know, these kind of individuals in your establishment.
Oh.
So if you're saying you're a queer ally, then you should know there's a possibility that there's some gunman or some psycho could run up in here if you allow them, you know. So there was venues that we had to stop working with because I felt that they weren't taking that serious. And safety for us is number one priority because, you know, if you're not safe, what are we doing? Like, how are we supposed to have fun? You know, like, it's just safety is number one.
Yeah, how can you be in your own skin if you're not safe?
Yeah.
I mean,
you
we
know.
deal with it in the outside world, right? We're already dealing with the judgment of being outside and not being safe. So when you go to these events, you expect to be safe because you know that it's catered to your community. So I agree. I think some of these venues fall short with that. And it's sad to say that sometimes you don't feel safe because of the venue, not because of you guys, but because of the venue and the way they're setting up shop. Um, but hey, I'm glad you're working with venues that do follow your guidelines. How do you stay updated on trends in nightlife and entertainment?
Um, you know, watching TikToks.
I
You
listen.
know, reels. Just seeing what's being put out there. But I have to say I'm not really too big on like trends and stuff. I just work my way. Like I haven't really been one to get on like I really tried at first with the TikTok trends and doing like whatever. I'm not a good dancer. Y'all know me. Y'all know see me on the dance floor with two left feet. So all those little dance moves and stuff like that ain't happening on TikTok. Even though those things get popular and your
Yeah.
reels be popping and it ain't me, so I can't do that. I just late at night when I have a chance and I just look at TikTok. But the truth is, I don't really follow a trend. I just do what I want to do. I
Right.
create my parties based on what I want to do, what I think is gonna be okay. What if it's gonna be if it's a hit, it's a hit. If it's a miss, it's a miss. But either way, I want to give myself the chances of trying. When I first started Las Reinas, I had this little marble notebook. And in there, remember, here we go from my childhood. I lived in a fantasy. I had a big imagination. So in this notebook, I had all these theme parties, like the Jungle Book, like the this, the that, the none of them I was able to produce the way I would want to because finances. And then also when you have a business partner, you have to talk them into your visions, and sometimes your visions don't collide. So it's now that I'm kind of working a little bit with doing things my way and creating like different types of parties. So for my mixer, I do a lot of like, even though it's not for single women, but I try to cater a lot to the single community because the one thing I do love about Las Reinas is all the beautiful relationships, friendships, and marriages that have come about because of my parties or because of me. That's amazing. That's a good feeling. So, like with the mixer, I do like glow parties. I do like glow bracelets, different colors, match this. If you're single, red. I mean, no, that's all twisted. If you're single, it's green. If it's red, if you're taken, it's a red. If you're being cautious or it depends on who's coming up to you, you're yellow. So I try to do all types of different things like that. So, so I find it fun because I also have to be enjoying
Yeah.
that part, because you don't just want to produce an event just to produce it. You have to be enjoying what you do because you should be working with something you're passionate about,
Yeah.
right? Because if not, it's boring.
What are some creative marketing strategies you've used to promote the events?
Honestly, this is going to sound funny and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when I make my little videos that I'm actually talking
Yeah.
and putting the information out, I think those work more than me dropping a flyer with some animation. Like, even though, like, let me tell you, if I showed you guys the bloopers of how many tries it takes me to make these videos, you guys would die. It's like take 100. Like it's like on and I get stuck, I stumble, I say the wrong things. I just it's a mess cuz I am really not good with video even though I'm holding it down
Yes,
today.
you are. I'm so
But
proud.
thanks. But normally I would be like stuttering, I get nervous, I whatever. So when I'm taking these selfie videos, it's so easy to take a selfie photo, but a video is not at all. And then you don't have the information to the parties in front of you. So it's like all memory. And at this point in my age, my kids done drain my memory out. So I'd be like, oh, party today, Sunday, October 18th. Wait a minute, wrong date. Like, it's just constantly. But honestly, when I drop those videos, I feel like those really capture the most. And then another marketing is actually just the videos of the actual parties. Authenticity. So I guess it goes line in line because when you're on the video, people see who their promoter is. They see who's behind it.
They can
So
connect.
they could connect,
Yeah.
right? And then the videos of actual images and stuff. And like for example, here's my videographer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So thanks to you, I can promote Les Mingo, Queer Games, Pride with authenticity of actual live videos that are happening and not faking the funk, like capturing screenshots of all these screen recordings of all these other parties and posting like they're my parties. No, I would never do that.
Wow.
So having like you, for example, taking authentic videos that are actually happening and people seeing themselves, that captures marketing. I think that's a good marketing, like to get people
I
to
think,
come.
yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that video right now is king.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people want to see you on the screen and talking to your crowd and your community, because if you can do all this promotion, you can do these flyers and you can do all these dope digital marketing tips, but if they don't personally know you, then it's just like, yeah, I don't know who this person is still. And you get in front of the screen, which is big shout outs to you because a lot of people don't do that. They're very shy to do that. And to get to know you in the past 3 years, I know you're not big on speaking. So
No.
for you to do these videos, I'm like, I know she's coming out her comfort zone to either speak on the mic or make this little promo video. I know it takes a lot. So
Yes, you missed it. But I was actually on the mic. I spoke at my event, which was, I was dying. I was dying. I was like hyperventilating, but you didn't see it.
not at the front, no.
Yeah. I mean, after I got off the mic, I was like, oh my God, that was rough. You know, I probably didn't say half the stuff that I really wanted to say, but I did, you know, come across, and I think I did it pretty good.
As you should. 16 years. I think you
But-
deserve a speech.
But trust me, you know me, I'll hand you guys, the DJs.
Yeah, I know. I think me and you fought over the mic like, here. You're like, no, it's okay. You got it. Can you give an example of a successful collaboration you've had with other promoters and brands? I know you work
so
with a lot.
many.
Yeah, I was about to say, I know you work
there's
with
a
so
lot
many.
of good promoters out there. I can't even say. I think they're all successful. I'll give them a shout out. You know, there's DJ Sammy Blends, who now we have this new party that we're starting up. It's called 12 Toxic Hours, and it's gonna go. You know, we wanted to make it viral. We want to go to different states. Then there's always Kate from Love a Girl. She's been out here like doing her thing for years. Like, whoo, like she's pretty known, you know. And then there's Cynthia Russo. I mean, I was partying at her parties when I was 16 years old. Every partnership is very different, like the dynamics.
Yeah.
I don't really work with too many promoters based on worth ethics. That's very important to me. So I haven't really collaborated with too many. I did collaborate with DJ Unk, who's also an amazing graphic designer. She designs sometimes for me and does her own events. We've worked, and she's a DJ. So she's another collaborator person that I've also partnered up with. But to be honest, I haven't done too many stuff. And then there's also outer state promoters like Les Chick in Miami. So I've worked with her. And those are actually partnerships. As far as like maybe like sub-promoting for other promoters, maybe other producers are like the Dinah, you know, Mariah Hansen. She does the Dinah over there in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And then there's the group Pandora's,
Events.
Yeah, Pandora's events, and they do the Girls in Wonderland. So I've worked with them, but not really as work, like, you know, more like kind of like a bartering, like, you know, I'll promote your event, you know, you look out for me kind of deal. But
It's still a foot in the door.
yeah, you know, I mean, it's still, you know, it's still being part of all the wonderful things that others are also producing. And
Sponsorships are big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance personal life, your day job, nightlife? How do you keep your mental health stable?
Girl, you think my mental health is stable?
I would hope a little bit. I mean,
Nah. Oh, wow. Whew. So balancing my life is a chaos. I'm a chaos. I'm a walking little time bomb. I'm like, trust me, as much as I look well put together and stuff, no. It's really difficult. And I wish I could say otherwise.
Yeah.
But Las Reinas does take a big part of me because it's my own business. So I'm practically do it 24/7. I think many of my like relationships, like romantic and also as friendship, sometimes it gets under their like what is it called?
Skin.
Like under their skin.
Yeah.
They get annoyed by
They
me
can
because
feel
they're
it.
like, can you take a break? Can you honestly take a break? And it's like sometimes I feel like if I take a break, any of these youngins or all these other different promoters or whatever can come and snatch the piece of the pie. And I can't have that. But then, you know, I mean, there's times that maybe I'll take it down, maybe a few hours. But producing an event is so much. It's marketing, it's emails, it's graphic designing, making videos, reaching out to people through DMs, like posting. It's a lot when you run your own business. When you are your own boss, you really don't have a break.
Yeah.
Anyone, you know, even though people say. But it would be different if I'm like full-blown successful having these events that are like 1,000 people. But I'm also catering to the small-time events, you know, the small stuff where, you know, there are 50 people to 100, maybe 200, 300, then it gets bigger. So I can't turn my back on my, small events as well because people still need a place to go. So, but they still need to be promoted just as much.
Yeah.
You need to put your face out there. So it's a struggle, something I need to learn. But trust me, I'm like a walking time bomb.
I'm sure you're working on it, though.
I'm hoping to. I am like that's why I love to travel. But even on travels, I work.
Oh, man. I think you should give yourself like the first 2 days, no work.
You know what? I think what I should do is give myself a break from events. I feel that what I've been doing lately is like I was only starting with monthlies, but now my monthlies have been every week. I have an event every week, and I didn't realize all that I was adding on until recently, and I was like, whoa. So for 2025, as sad to say, because maybe girls are like, no, I think that I'm going to take more of a focus on the main events that are really are really fun and enjoyable and give myself a break and where I don't feel that I need to add myself onto an event. Like if somebody reaches out to me and say, hey, we're going to have this party, by all means, I could post it for you, but I don't need to be a partner. Yes, I love money. Like I'm a Sag. Like I love to be a boss and money, money, money is the big thing. But I'm also getting older. I'm about to be 45 years old in December. And my kids are getting older. And I need to realize that at some point, my health is more important than money.
Your physical and mental health. But you deserve the break.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know.
2025, little break.
A little break. They won't die without it, I promise. She'll be right back. Just let her take a mental break. I think my last question for you before we wrap it up is, what would you tell your younger self after knowing everything you've known and experienced today? If you can go back.
Sadly enough, I would not want to go back to my childhood. It wasn't one that a young woman should have lived. Leave it at that. But I guess, honestly, I don't have anything to say to her except that I'm very proud of her.
I love that.
That I'm very proud for her creating the woman that she has created after everything that was put in her place to put her down. Instead, I will toot my own horn and say I work fucking hard to not allow all the wrongdoings to get me into a bad place. And so I'm proud of her.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being raw and open. This was an amazing, amazing, amazing conversation, and I'm glad that everybody's gonna be able to see another side of you, not just the party side of you. I'm gonna just finish off of you tell them where they can find you, all your channels. Come on, promotion's big.
Well, for those of you that don't know, Lori from Las Reinas NYC. Once again, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok on Las Reinas NYC. And that's basically it. So I hope you find me at a party. And if you do, take a picture.
Perfect. You already know where to find us. Orange Cups Podcast. Appreciate you guys.